Hello Year 1, happy Wacky Socks Wednesday. I hope you're wearing yours today. If you are, take a photo and post them on Seesaw and let us know of any kindness that you've been spreading today. Here are mine. I'm wearing my dragon socks today. I like these socks, they're a bit funny. If I stand on my tippy toes you can see that on one sock is the dragon's head and his body, and on the other sock is his tail.
Here's a little wacky sock thought for the day. How you make others feel says a lot about who you are. Leave them with a smile, a hug, and a kind thought. I wonder if you could do these things for somebody today.
Today for writing, we are going to start writing the middle of our Queen's Hat story. You wrote about these 3 pictures yesterday for the beginning of your story. Today you are going to need your plan from last Monday and your plan from last Friday for the middle of our story. Today we are going to focus on the first 2 landmarks on our plan. So here I have the picture of Trafalgar Square from the book, and I have my first landmark that I drew on my plan. And I've also got our special words that we said we were going to use in our writing. Now over here we have a new checklist for the middle of the story. Yesterday we had one for the beginning. This is our one for the middle. So it says, describe the landmark using an adjective. We've already planned that, so you don't need to think about that today. That's in your plan. What happens to the hat at the landmark? Now, if you remember back to when I was acting out using my puppets, I told you that when my hat got to Big Ben, it got stuck on the big hand of the clock. What's going to happen to the hat at each of the landmarks in your story? Use and to join 2 sentences. Now, we looked at this on Monday, and if you're in the foxes, the owls and the mice, you had a go at doing this yesterday in your beginning. So we're going to try and use and to join 2 sentences to add a bit more detail and make our writing flow. We also need to make sure that we're writing about what the characters are doing. So at Trafalgar Square, the Queen climbed over the fierce lion statue to try and get to her hat, and then the soldiers clambered after her, following her along. And if you remember when I was telling the story for Big Ben, I said that the Queen had pulled her way up, followed by her soldiers. We also talked about this one when we were using our puppets to act out the story. It says, what sound does the wind make as it blows the hat to the next landmark? And you should have also planned those words that you're going to use. So here I've got swoosh, because that's the word that was in the book. And I've also got the word whiz, because that's the one that I chose and decided that that's the sound that the wind was going to make as it blew the hat away from Big Ben onto the next place.
Before you start writing, look at your title from yesterday. What do you need to do today to improve your writing?
On the screen you will see the pictures of my first 2 landmarks, Trafalgar Square and Big Ben. You already know what happens at Trafalgar Square because that was in the book. So I'm going to be writing about Big Ben. I'm going to imagine that I've already written the Trafalgar Square part and now I'm on to Big Ben. So I finished the last part by saying the hat blew over the fierce lions, with the Queen and the guards clambering after it. It floated high up and onto... So I have written, it floated high up onto Big Ben and got stuck on the big hand of the clock. Now, I'm just going to have a look at what I've written so far and make sure that I read and check my work so that I know where I need to improve. I'm going to take my yellow pen just in case there's anything I've forgotten. I've remembered my capital letter at the start of my sentence. I have used and in my sentence to join my ideas. It floated high up onto Big Ben
and got stuck on the big hand of the clock. I've remembered my full stop, but I have spotted something that I've forgotten. So I've used my positional word, which I'm really pleased about, but I forgot to use the adjective that I've planned. So I'd planned to use the word tall to describe Big Ben, and I've missed that out. It floated high up onto, I'm just going to add that in there to edit my work, which is why it's important that we read and check our work back so that we can improve it as we go. So if I think back to our checklist for writing the middle of the story, I have described my landmark using an adjective. I have told you what happens to the hat when it gets to the landmark. I've used and to join my sentences together. So now I need to tell you what the characters did when they got to the landmark. So I've written, the Queen pulled her way up the tower and her guards followed too. So I've done another and sentence. I'm really pleased about that. I've remembered my capital letter at the start of my sentence and my full stop at the end of my sentence. And I've told you what my characters were doing at the landmark. I'm just going to add a little bit more to this part of the story. So I've written, just as she was about to reach the hat, dong, 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 the clock struck 4 and the big hand moved forwards. So those of you who remember my puppet show from last week will remember that part of the story. Now the last thing on our checklist is to think about the sound that the wind is going to make as it blows the hat onto the next landmark. So for this part on my plan, I wrote the word whiz, so I'm going to use that in my writing. So I've written, suddenly the wind went whiz. It blew the hat through. So I've set up my next sentence, ready to go on to my next landmark tomorrow. And what do you notice about how I've written the sound for the wind? Yeah, I've written it in capital letters because it's a loud sound, and I've also used an exclamation mark.
Well done, Year 1. Remember, you just need to write about your first 2 landmarks on your plan. We will write about the other 2 tomorrow. When you finish, don't forget to complete your title and take a photo of your work to post on Seesaw. We'd love to see how you're getting on. Have a super afternoon, and I will see you tomorrow for another writing lesson. Bye!